Honey. Honey, wake up. You won't believe the dream I just had. What? But don't you want to hear about it?
All right, Bob. What is it?
Well, I was an innkeeper in this crazy little town in Vermont.
I'm happy for you. Good night.
Nothing made sense in this place. I mean, the maid was an heiress. Her husband talked in alliteration. The handyman kept missing the point of things. And then there were these 3 woodsmen, but only one of them talked.
That settles it. No more Japanese food before you go to bed.
And I was married to this beautiful blonde.
Go back to sleep, Bob.
Good night, Ellen.
What do you mean, beautiful blonde?
Go to sleep, Emily. You know, you really should wear more sweaters.
Rest in peace to the incomparable Bob Newhart. An anthology about the bad, the short-lived, and the forgotten shows and events in television history. This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Punisher! Control! Tell me before I change my mind!
I give you Super Train.
Episode 484, submission number 1764. Oddities at the Olympic opening ceremonies. We are, as this is being released, 1 day away from lighting the torch in Paris and ushering in the 2024 Olympic Games. The first of its kind. Mainly because breakdancing. It's like America's Best Dance Crew, but with gold medals instead of banners. Before we get to that, let's take a bit of a look back at all of the odd things that happened in the 100-plus year history of the Olympic Games, or at least during the opening ceremonies. We can't talk about oddities at the opening ceremonies without bringing this guy up again. The topless Tongan. Pita Taufatofua, an American citizen competing for Tonga, if I'm not mistaken. He was the flag bearer, and he had absolutely no shirt on. And the ladies were driven wild.
Meg, will you take one of these and pass it down, please?
What's this?
I'm starting a new advocacy group, the Quahog Animal Equal Rights League. Our first meeting is tomorrow night, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys would come and show your support.
Well, of course we will, Brian. We'd be happy to come.
Terrific. See, I thought I'd start locally and then maybe try to merge with one of the larger groups.
Oh, that's a great idea, Brian. Maybe you could join PETA.
Join me for what?
No, PETA, the organization.
What organization?
PETA.
What?
PETA is an acronym, PETA.
No, I'm not. I'm Catholic.
Are we really doing this?
No, PETA. I'm just saying maybe if this meeting goes well, Brian could be part of a PETA rally.
Somebody's having a rally for me now?
No, for PETA.
That's me. I'm Peter.
I'm not talking about you, PETA. I'm talking about PETA.
Somebody better have something to say to me pretty damn soon, or I'm going to have something to say to them. I am very busy.
I think Betty White is in PETA.
That doesn't even make any sense!
He represented Tonga in Taekwondo, believe it or not. But also a Winter Olympian. But I don't remember what his sport was in the Winter Olympics. PETA was actually competing in two sports, Taekwondo and kayaking. As early as 3 years ago, we had our first viral moment of the Olympics of 2020 in 2021.
You were wondering what he competed in the Winter Olympics? In 2018, he competed in the 15-kilometer skiing freestyle race. From Tonga, of all things, where they don't get snow, out of 119 skiers, he finished 114th.
Well, he lives in the U.S., and we get plenty of snow.
Actually, if you look at Wiki, it says that he splits his time between Tonga and Brisbane, Australia. But even Australia doesn't get that much snow unless you go to the mountains, I'm guessing.
But if you want to talk about really hot things at the Olympics, you have to go back to 1988. This is the crowning moment of the opening ceremonies, where you see that giant cauldron creatively lit. In the games of Sydney, you saw Kathy Freeman just light it up, and out from underneath the water comes this gigantic cauldron, and she's in the middle of it, and it goes right to the top of the stadium, and it was just incredibly awesome. And then you had the man, the myth, the legend, Muhammad Ali in Atlanta, light the torch, and when it was all over, there's just one single light, and on a delay, it just poof. It was pretty good stuff there. And then, of course, in the Salt Lake Games, you have the Miracle on Ice team light the cauldron together underneath this sort of column that just traveled up and up and up and up until boom. And then there was 1988, where you had the final members of the torch relay ascending the torch cauldron by riding an elevating platform. And when they reached the top, there were Japanese doves all over the place. They flew around. They landed on the cauldron for some reason. And then the relay team lit the torches. And up comes the Olympic flame, and down comes a bunch of dead doves.
Oh, the dovemanity.
Suffice it to say, Olympic organizers discontinued the live dove release and chose to go with balloons instead.
They didn't see what happened in Cleveland.
Is that too obscure of a reference for everybody?
No.
So that's our first moment. Our second moment takes us 4 years later at Barcelona. This was a significant games in that we have the return of South Africa after a 28-year ban. Y'all know why. We had the first Olympics in which professional players were allowed to compete, which gave rise to the Dream Team, which was the best of the NBA. And Christian Leitner for some reason. And rather than having somebody walk up to the cauldron and light it, in comes Paralympic archer Antonio Rebollo. He's the last person with the flame. He didn't just light it just to light it. He took the flame at the end of an arrow it would be fired over the crowd toward the cauldron and theoretically into the cauldron, lighting it ablaze. I believe it was just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside.
But hey, it was a spectacle to see. And then we go to 2012. 2012 was a salute to all things British, it seems, because we have the Queen skydiving and James Bond helping her. This wasn't lighting the torch. This was to just kick it all off. And I still wonder to this day, was this the actual Queen or just a professional skydiver in royal garb? Because I honestly don't know.
Probably not.
Let's stay with London for a bit, because aside from the skydiving Queen and James Bond, we had, for some reason, a really big baby.
Yeah, a giant baby. It was nightmare fuel.
And it wasn't just like this giant model of a baby. I think it was a giant model of a baby that was held together by string. Because if you look at it, it looks kind of like a wireframe 3D puzzle almost. And for some reason, it looks like an army of midwives all around it. Going back to the torch, though, we have to talk about what happened in 2010 in Vancouver. If you remember the Vancouver torch, it had like 3 prongs that were just supposed to lift up together to make this giant pyramid torch sort of situation. It was supposed to be a team of Steve Nash, Wayne Gretzky, Rick Hansen, and Katrina LeMay Doan. Steve Nash's torch lifted off the ground. Wayne Gretzky's torch lifted. Rick Hansen's torch lifted. There was actually supposed to be a 4th part of that pyramid. It did not lift, and Katrina LeMay Doan was just holding a torch with nothing to light. Meanwhile, in Beijing for 2008, the Chinese had big plans for their opening ceremony, and for the most part, they went through with those big plans. They wanted Steven Spielberg to oversee it, if you believe it or not, according to Sports Illustrated. But because Steven Spielberg is a man of virtue and a man of honor, he took a look at China's human rights record and said, you know what? I'm good. So fast forward to the performance of the Chinese national anthem. Here you had 9-year-old Lin Miao Kei belting out Ode to the Motherland. She was adorable. She was poised. She had the great stage presence. There was just one problem. That wasn't Lin Miao Kei singing. That was actually 7-year-old Yang Pei Yi singing. But they brought in Lin Miao Kei to lip sync over Peggy's voice because her face, and this is according to the Washington Post, was found to be not suitable for television.
Oh, so this was a Milli Vanilli situation.
Pretty much. By the way, going back to that giant baby in London, some quick research notes. The opening ceremony was directed by Danny Boyle, and that giant baby was the centerpiece of a salute to the NHS. More specifically, the staff of the Great Ormond Hospital. According to The Guardian, the nurses collectively delivered the giant baby. The dancing sick kids salute to the National Health Service, complete with a Mary Poppins air raid and a giant Franken baby? Much less fun and more than a bit bizarre. But if you want to talk about bizarre, we have to go to Sochi in 2014. During the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics, a choir made up of Russian army soldiers sang a rousing rendition of the feel-good song of 2014, Daft Punk's Get Lucky. Now, this is not the All-American chorus down the road in Fort Liberty, by the way. This is Russian soldiers singing, "We're up all night to get lucky."
No. That's terrible.
That's awkward almost on a level that I can't even begin to comprehend. 1984, Los Angeles. 2 words. Rocket Man.
Wait, William Shatner's gonna sing it again?
The LA Olympics kicked off with Bill Suter and a rocket pack. Now, if that didn't get America ready for the Olympics, I don't know what did. Let's go back to London for a second. We saw the NHS. We saw the Queen. We saw James Bond. I think the one thing we did not see was Chariots of Fire. And what better way to incorporate Chariots of Fire in the London Olympics than with Mr. Bean?
Sure, why not? I mean, is there anything more iconic than Mr. Bean in Britain?
Only the Queen, James Bond, and the Spice Girls, and the Beatles, and Doctor Who. Wait, where's Doctor Who in all of this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, didn't we get that one episode of Doctor Who with David Tennant's doctor lit the torch?
Yeah, which was right after some weird kid with a purple crayon decided to, well, blink everyone out of existence for like 10 minutes. You have to go back to season 2 and watch it. It's really good stuff. One thing about the opening ceremonies is that everybody likes to go big. In Beijing, they had 2008 drummers for the year 2008. In Sydney, they had 120 horsemen right after one lone horseman gallops into an empty stadium and then cracks his whip to summon 120 more horsemen. In Lillehammer in 1994, you had a ski jump with the torch. In 2004 in Athens, we had Bjork debuting her single Oceania in a giant dress that doubled as a projection screen. In 1992, as a tribute to Freddie Mercury, we had Barcelona, sung by Montserrat Caballé. It was one of the best known Olympic songs. Unfortunately, Freddie Mercury never got to sing it because he died less than a year before the games actually began. In Rio, you had native daughter of Brazil walking the catwalk, Gisele Bündchen.
Boo!
By the way, she may have been enjoying her time a little too much because she was really, really, really slogging on the 400-foot catwalk, and an entire other scheduled segment had to be cut as a result. And then back in Los Angeles in 1984, we had the premiere of Olympic fanfare and theme from the legendary John Williams. Nowadays, you cannot think about the Olympics without thinking about that music. And in Albertville in 1992, we had Cirque du Soleil-ish performers performing an air ballet. We had dancers strapped into ribbons, twirling and floating like giant mummers around a giant pole in the middle of the arena. It is said to be one of the most mesmerizing of any opening ceremonies. Okay, Greg, it's time to talk about the other thing that happened in Sochi in 2014. They ordered 5 Olympic rings. They ended up getting 4.
Yeah, 4 Olympic rings. And you know what happened? One of them couldn't light up.
No, they all lit up.
Oh, yeah, the 5th one lit up. The 5th one couldn't open.
They had to have fun with it since this was like a big moment. We had the closing ceremony with dancers forming the Olympic rings, and one group of dancers did not want to expand their ring.
I got it right here on the screen share. Here it is. You know what the 5th ring looks like to me?
An asterisk?
No, the logo for CBS Sunday Morning.
It looks more like the logo for BP.
I can see the logo to CBS Sunday Morning. It's actually a very good comparison. And I think this is the first time in almost 500 shows we've brought up CBS Sunday Morning, just to show that we're a little highbrow around here every now and then.
Although we have brought up Mo Rocco on occasion on the podcast.
But not the show proper.
No.
So what else could we bring up about the opening to the Olympics? I think we covered pretty much every oddity that ever happened. Actually, there are a couple of oddities that happened that we are not going to touch with a 10-foot pole. But that's pretty much all we got, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they made for an exciting start to 16 days of unforgettable things on TV. Some of which we actually covered on this podcast before. We go from the opening now to a grand finale.
It's time for This Weekend Match Game. Hollywood Squares. Our History.
Oh man, Mike, we're gonna have to extinguish the torch of this. Oh, it's so sad.
Extinguish the torch?
Yeah. At the Olympics, they always extinguish the torch at the closing ceremony.
I get that, but I'm thinking this is more of a dumpster fire than a torch.
What do you mean a dumpster fire?
Well, if it was actually halfway decent, we'd be talking about its 41st anniversary coming up in October.
Yeah, if frickin' Ken Osmond had assisted Gallagher with the watermelon, we'd still be here.
Nothing we could do about that. And of course, in addition to Ken Osmond assisting Gallagher, getting the watermelon all over Richard Deacon, that would have sent the series over the top. Or maybe they just needed more magnificent beard guys.
Or Dollar General Ricky Schroeder.
Hashtag Gary got robbed. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Greg's line.
Or tomatoes like Katie.
Regardless, this is the end, my friend. This is the end. And in the end this week, we have Phyllis Diller, Constance McCashin, Roger E. Mosley, Charles Nelson Riley, Fannie Flagg, Roxy Roker, Leonard Fry, and Barry Gordon. Now, the first thing I want to bring up this week is on the Monday show. Between the Match Game segment and the Hollywood Squares segment, we had a little cameo. And I'm going to invoke the It Was a Thing on TV players to reenact that scene.
Don, would you take Lisa with you for a second here while I greet another person here? This beautiful woman walking on stage right now is Morgan Fairchild.
Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
You're gorgeous.
Morgan Fairchild.
Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
Oh, we're getting so much mileage out of that stupid Jane Moosefield clip. Oh my gosh. Well, anyhow, in terms of big wins this week, we had $20,000 won with Fannie Flagg on Monday and $10,000 won with John on Thursday. And this series did not have a proper close, which actually back 40 years ago, that puzzled me because I remember seeing it in Cleveland, and my dad and I went to Mississippi to visit my grandfather, and it was gone. Wait, are you saying that Match Game Hollywood Squares is gone, or does Mississippi just hate Gene Rayburn and John Bowman? No, it was gone. So that was a tough pill for me to swallow back 40 years ago. 40 years ago this week, I had to swallow that pill. Haven't really gotten over it, unfortunately. Well, before we go, two things. First, I want a brief moment of silence for Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. And second, we do have a new little feature lined up next week in place of the Match Game Hollywood Squares This Week in History. So you'll have to catch that. But for now, for the final time in this segment, let's send it back to Chico and let's close up the shop. Let's extinguish the Olympic flame, as it were. Oh, do we want to actually do a Joey Gallo update, even though he's been injured for the last month?
Yeah, let's do that. What the hell? It's the Joey Gallo update.
So we have not done a Joey Gallo update in seemingly months. Well, maybe not months, but it's been probably a good 6 weeks. There is a good reason for that, unfortunately. And as you might guess, the good reason is he hasn't played. He's been injured. He's been on the 10-day DL with hamstring issues since, looks like, middle of June. Last game he played was actually June 11th. So that would be, 6 weeks ago at this point, 7 weeks ago. But there's good news. On June 9th, he did participate in batting practice. So maybe a return is in his future. I don't know. But also at the same time, the Nationals have actually looked halfway decent the last couple of weeks that he's been out. So maybe he might be on his way out. Who knows? But there's our little update. So, we won't have another one until he returns, whether it's next week or 2 weeks or 2 months from now. So now let's finish everything up and let's go enjoy some Olympic festivities.
Well, while the Olympics get ready to begin in Paris tomorrow, you could go over to itwasathingontv.com and listen to the 480 some odd episodes that preceded this one. We've got great bonuses, minisodes, live shows, extended plays, the whole works. Remember, we're on all social media except for Facebook, where we're at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and Mastodon, where we're at It Was a Thing on TV at tvwatch.party. Otherwise, all you have to do is follow It Was a Thing on TV. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever fine podcasts can be streamed, at Apple, TuneIn, iHeart, Audible, wherever we're there. And we are also on YouTube. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of our future topics, including what we have in store for next week. Next week, we continue with our Olympic fortnight. What happens when a team of the greatest basketball players to ever ascend to James Naismith's hallowed halls takes on Angola?
Oh, it gets ugly.
How ugly? You're going to have to tune in next week to find out right here on It Was a Thing on TV. For Greg, for Mike, I'm Chico. Thank you so much for listening. Please be kind to one another, and we will see you for the next one. Row!
What we know in the islands in Tonga is that oil makes everything so much easier. It gives you extra energy. See that? That's all coconut oil. Woo. As soon as you put it on, you're ready just to hit these. See that? This is my maintenance workout. I do this every day. Pull-ups and push-ups are like a staple for me. Anytime I don't have a specific event coming up, I'm just here pushing, pulling. We're trying to maintain that Polynesian physique. One coconut in the coconut tree. 2 coconuts are falling for me. I'm trying to make sure that whenever an event does come up, I'm always ready to go.
One of the most important things for me is having Olympic level nutrition. I've got to make sure that the machine's working. What I'm aiming for this time is to have strawberry as the main fruit, and then I'm just going to pick different vegetables to put in with that, for the vitamins and minerals. Punnet of strawberries, I think I'll grab that one, that's perfect. I grab 3 tomatoes, please.